Hello dear students, in today's lecture we are going to discuss about current source inverter fed induction motor drives. Before going into the topology and detailed functioning of a CSI fed induction motor drive, let us analyze the equivalent circuit of an induction motor with a current source. Here you can see a current source inverter is feeding a current IS through the stator of the induction motor. This is the per phase equivalent circuit, and at this junction you can see this IS is getting divided into the magnetizing component of the current and the rotor current. So IM is a current through the magnetizing branch and IR dash is the equivalent rotor current referred to the stator side. If you write an expression for IR dash applying the current division rule here, you will get it as IR dash is equal to IS into XM divided by root over the total impedance, that is RR dash by S the whole square plus XM plus XR dash the whole square. This is the expression for torque in terms of IR dash, and if you substitute for IR dash square from this expression, you will get an expression like this in terms of the stator current. And then if you find the slip at which this torque is maximum, you will get it as S at maximum torque equal to RR dash by XM plus XR dash. Please note that XM is a large value. So this denominator is very large, and therefore the slip at which the maximum torque occurs is a very small value. When we plot the torque speed characteristics for an induction motor fed from current source, we get a curve like this. We get these three colored curves for different values of currents. That is, IS1 is greater than IS2 and this is greater than IS3 here. Please note that as we discussed, the slip at which the maximum torque occurs is a very small value. This slip is a very small value. Now this white curve shows the torque speed characteristics when the induction motor is fed from a voltage source, and this is the plot for rated voltage. At rated voltage, the machine is operating at its rated flux. So these points where the curves intersect, that is the curves corresponding to the current source fed induction motor and a voltage source fed induction motor, where they meet, these points. At these points, the machine is operating at rated flux. So it is preferred to operate the machine at these points as it is operating at its rated value of air gap flux. Please note that this point is along the unstable region of the torque speed characteristics. If you consider another point here, you can say that the torque is same at these 2 points. This point is a stable point compared to this point. Then why don't we go to this point for the operation of the induction motor when it is fed from a current source? At this point, the value of slip is very small. If you consider the equivalent circuit, as slip is very small, this RR dash by S will be very large. Therefore, from a constant current source, this IR dash will decrease at low values of slip, or this magnetizing current or the current through this magnetizing branch will be very large, or the machine will go to saturation in this region of operation. So in order to avoid that, avoid the machine from going to saturation, we are operating the machine at this point where the air gap flux is rated, but at the same time it's an unstable point. Therefore, a closed loop operation of the drive is important to ensure that the machine is operating at its rated value of flux and to make it stable. So to make it stable in the closed loop system, you have to add corresponding compensators, and with that we can ensure the operation of the induction motor with a current source at rated flux. So what can be done to maintain the magnetizing current constant at its rated value while operating from a current source? Let us see that. Operation of an induction motor drive with constant air gap flux from current source. ultimately, if you want to maintain the flux constant, you have to maintain the value of this current through the magnetizing branch, that is Im constant. So Im is given by this expression. Similar to the IR dash expression, we are writing expression for Im in terms of Is and the motor circuit parameters. And you get an expression like this. Is into root over RR dash by S the whole square plus XR dash the XR dash square divided by the total. And this is the expression for Im square. If you divide the numerator and denominator by F, you get an expression like this, that is frequency. Is square into RR dash by SF the whole square plus 4 pi square LR dash square divided by this. What is SF? You are familiar with this term. SF is the slip frequency. So here also in current source fed induction motor drive, just like the VSI in voltage control, V by F control, we have discussed about slip speed regulation. A similar process is done here using current source also. That is why we are interested about this slip frequency term here. So when SF is very small, this term is dominating in the numerator as well as denominator, or these two can be neglected. So you get an expression that Im is equal to Is when slip SF is very small. Please note that you want to maintain this Im at a constant value. For moderately small values of SF, what happens is, from the numerator, this term will dominate, but from the denominator, this term will dominate. Why? Because this Lm has a very large value. Okay, so when such a cancellation you make there, from the numerator, if you can you neglect this term, and from the denominator if you from the numerator if you neglect this term, and from the denominator you are neglecting this RR dash by SF term, you get an expression like this. Or if you observe this expression, you can see that if you write an expression for Is from this in terms of Im, you can see that these are constants, Lm, Lr dash, RR dash, etc. And you want to maintain this Im constant. If you want to maintain this Im constant, then Is has to be proportional to SF. Or the closed loop control has to do one important function, that is, in order to maintain this Im constant, this Is by SF has to be maintained constant. So that is what is done using the closed loop control. If we are plotting this SF or rotor frequency or slip frequency against Is, you get a curve like this. What does this mean? For small values of slip, this Im is equal to Is. For large values, moderately large values, this has to be proportional, or this is a straight line. This is maintaining the relation Is by SF equal to a constant. So this is very important in the closed loop control, because the slip speed is regulated in such a manner that Is by SF is a constant. And here, when it reaches, what happens? The Is reaches its rated value. When it reaches its rated value, you cannot increase Is beyond its rated value. So for slip frequency greater than these values, Is is maintained constant. So if Is is maintained constant and frequency is increased, what happens? Im is proportional to Is by SF. So if Is is maintained constant and if frequency is SF is increased, what happens? This term Im will decrease, or this is going to flux weakening mode. Alright. The motor will draw a constant current. For a given slip speed, will draw a constant current to maintain this Im constant. and therefore it develops a constant torque at all the frequencies. So even if frequency is changed to control the speed, what happens is the slip will get adjusted and IS by SF will be maintained constant. Therefore the motor will operate at constant torque mode from 0 to base speed of the motor. Then what happens at base speed, slip is low, the machine will reach its rated machine voltage, or the variable frequency current source voltage will saturate. So in either case, the machine operates at a constant terminal voltage above the base speed. Therefore, it will go to constant power mode above the base speed. The performance is similar to a variable frequency voltage source inverter drive. So the variable frequency for the current supply here is provided using a current source inverter. Now this circuit shows the current source inverter. I hope you are familiar with the auto sequentially commutated current source inverter. Here you can see these thyristors are turned on in the order of these numbering: T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6. What are these capacitors for? These capacitors are used for the commutation of these thyristors. There is no natural commutation here. A DC current is fed and we are going to change this DC current and an AC current at a particular frequency. The frequency is determined by turning on and turning off of these thyristor. Duration of the thyristor turn on and turn off, and the magnitude of the current that is given to the machine can be adjusted by varying the magnitude of the current source. So if you express this current source in this form, that is actually how we make a current source. Here a DC source VD along with an inductor LD constitute a current source. This LD will maintain the current constant, the large value of LD. So by varying this VD, we can vary the magnitude of ID that is flowing from the source. So if you want to control the current that is flowing to the stator, that is IS, you have to control the value of ID. That is a current. Okay. So when the current is flowing like this, a constant DC current is flowing. If you want to commutate this thyristor, if you have to turn off this thyristor T1, these capacitors are used. So this capacitor C1 is initially charged with this polarity. Okay. When you want to turn off T1 and turn on T3, the control signal to turn on T3 is supplied, and when T3 is turned on, this capacitor will come across instantaneously. It will come across T1, and therefore a negative voltage will get supplied across T1 and it instantly turns off. So what are the need? Why do we need these diodes D1 and D3 and D5, etc.? We'll see an equivalent circuit for the commutation. During commutation, what happens? When this T1 is turned off, when after turning on T3, you see these capacitors C1, C3 and C5 get connected like this. C1, then C3 and C5 will be in series. You can see that now this capacitor will start charging through T3 now. Okay, so here this initial conduction is through the diode D1. The current is flowing through diode D1. When will this diode stop conduction and the current get transferred to D3? That will happen after this capacitor gets charged with this polarity through T3. Okay, and the time required to charge this capacitor will determine the duration for which this D1 will continue its conduction. Okay, and after this capacitor gets charged, it will block the current flow through D1 and the thyristor T3 will start its conduction through T3 D3. So that means the value of that commutation period will be determined by the value of this capacitor. But note that once T3 is turned on, T1 will instantly turn off because this negative voltage will get applied across T1 instantaneously. Okay, so this is the equivalence. This is what is happening for T1 and T3, and similarly if you analyze each commutation or commutation of each thyristor can be easily analyzed if you consider the equivalent circuit for each. As T3 is turned off when T5 is turned on, you can analyze that also in a similar manner and explain it for yourself. Okay, now these are the gate signals which are provided to the 6 thyristors. If you observe the signals and the waveform, you will see that these are similar to a 6-step inverter waveform, voltage waveform. So I am leaving that analysis for yourself. You can see when thyristor T1 is on and when in this period if you consider both T1 and T2 are turned on. When T1 and T2 are turned on, the current will flow through T1 through the machine and it will complete its path through T2. So the current flowing through the phase A is ID. It's ID. IS is equal to ID at that point. That is what is plotted here. Or IS or IA is equal to ID. Okay. So similarly, if you analyze for every 60-degree interval, this pulse duration is of 120 degree, this is 180 degree, and this if you again split it into 60-degree duration as you have done for the voltage source inverter drive, you will get a waveform for one of the phase currents, that is IA. Similarly, you can get the waveform for IB and IC. So here you see this IA waveform is the stator current per phase stator current waveform. So if you want to find out the average value, RMS value of this stator current, first we'll see what is the fundamental component of this waveform, IS1, the fundamental component. If you write down the Fourier series of the expression of this particular waveform, similar to the way you have done for a 6-step voltage source converter, you will get an expression like this: 2√3 by pi ID sine omega t, or its maximum value, IS maximum value is given by 2√3 by pi ID. What about its RMS value? So IS RMS value will be this Im by √2. So this will be 2√3 by pi ID by √2, or you will get the RMS value of the fundamental as √6 by pi ID. What does this mean? To conclude, you can say that the RMS value of the current that is supplied by this current source inverter is proportional to ID. So if you want to vary the RMS value of this current, you need to vary this ID. How will you vary the ID? You need a voltage source which is variable. That is, you can vary the voltage that is supplied from the source using a converter to vary the RMS value of IS. These are the schemes which are used to implement current sources. From a fixed DC source, when you connect an inductor LD, DC link inductor in series, you get a constant current source. If the supply is AC, a fully controlled rectifier is used to convert it into DC, and then a DC link inductor will connect it to the inverter. If the supply is DC, if you want a variable DC supply, a chopper has to be connected in between, and then a DC link inductor will connect it to the inverter and then to the induction motor drive. The important thing that you have to note here is that just like a 610 voltage source inverter, here the frequency of the current that is supplied by the CSI can be converted by controlling the gate signals that are given to the devices, the time period of the gate signals. But if you want to vary the magnitude of the current that is flowing, you have to vary ID. As we saw, IS is proportional to ID. So if you want to vary ID, there should be a variable voltage here, and that is how we get a variable current, variable frequency supply from this current source inverter. So ID can be sensed from this DC link, and the control circuit can give the firing angle, or due to this control rectifier or the duty ratio of the chopper is adjusted using the control circuit to control the value of ID in response to the requirement of torque by the induction motor. Now, what are the general features of a CSI fed induction motor drive? We'll just see what are the features. The commutation of the CSI is dependent upon the load, because the commutation circuit, you can see it is connected here, and the current through the T1, T3 or the devices is dependent, is supplied through the phases of the induction motor, and of course the commutation will be dependent upon the load parameters, which means the inverter as well as the motor must be matched. Then the inverter configuration is simple compared to the VSI, except for the commutation circuits, since freewheeling diodes are absent here. In this CSI, the current direction is in one direction only, that is through T1 it will flow in this direction only. We are not discussing about the reversal of current through a freewheeling diode. Why? Because here the load voltage is varying depending upon the terminal voltage is varying depending upon the load, whereas in VSI the voltage is load voltage is constant and the current is varying depending upon the load. In this case, the voltage will vary depending upon the load, and therefore there is no requirement of freewheeling diode. We saw when a freewheeling diode conducts and when the device conducts in a voltage source inverter. Such a requirement is not here. Then here you can see only single motor operation is possible using CSI, whereas multi-motor operation we can have using VSI. The DC link inductor has to be very large to maintain constant current. The inverter is force commutated to give variable frequency current. That is, current at variable frequency is obtained by force commutation of the devices of the inverter. Then motor current will rise and fall very fast. You can see from the waveform here, the motor current is rising and falling very fast, which means there will be the voltage spikes will be produced by the leakage inductance of the motor. So how this voltage spikes can be reduced using this commutating capacitors itself, and therefore the value of the commutating capacitor will be a compromise between the voltage spikes and operating frequency. See, these voltage spikes will also have a large value. So the commutating capacitors will reduce the voltage spikes by reducing the rate of rise and fall of the current. So large value of commutating capacitor is required to reduce the voltage spikes sufficiently. So the large value of commutation capacitor will have the advantage that a cheap converter grade thyristor can be used, but then the frequency range of the inverter will be reduced, and therefore the speed range of the drive will also be reduced. So here the commutating capacitor value has to be a compromise here. Now the CSI is very reliable and rugged because it recovers from commutation failure due to large inductance value which constitutes the current source. That is, you know that in a voltage source inverter, the conduction of the switches in the same leg is not advisable, because if both the devices in a particular leg or a phase are turned on at the same time, what will happen? The DC source will get short circuited and a huge amount of current will flow through the devices. So in order to avoid that, avoid the deteriorating effect of the commutation commutation failure, expensive high-speed semiconductor fuses are required to protect the devices in VSI. But in the case of this current source inverter, the conduction of two devices in the same leg does not lead to sudden rise of current through them, and that is because of the presence of the large inductance LD. So this allows the time for commutation to take place and normal operation to get restored in subsequent cycles. So here, less expensive HRC fuses are enough for the protection of thyristors. Now, the large value of this LD and the commutating capacitors can make the CSI drive more expensive and bulky. Now this is the closed loop slip controlled CSI drive with regenerative braking. We'll see how regeneration is taking place in a current source inverter. You can see here in this scheme, this is a CSI which is feeding a current IS to the induction motor. So when it goes to regenerative braking mode, it is not possible to reverse this current. IS will be maintained in this direction itself. So instead of reversing this IS, the voltage here will be reversed. So here it will be minus and here it will be plus. In that case, what happens to the CSI? It will behave as a rectifier. It will be rectifying the power from the motor side, which is in the generation mode during regenerative braking, and that will be converted to given back to the source by maintaining this ID in this direction itself, but the voltage polarity will be reversed. So what should be the change here? This will be behaving as an inverter then. Okay, so the polarity will be like this. With alpha greater than 90 degree, what will happen? This will be feeding back power to the AC supply. Now, one important point here is that this is the main reason why we are going for CSI in megawatt range drives. So CSI finds application in drives in this power range, because if you use a VSI here, you should have replaced this with a dual converter, isn't it? And that is not economical. So considering the efficiency of the drive, CSI is more efficient compared to VSI when it comes to megawatt range and if you want regenerative braking in an economical manner. Okay, so the most important point here is that DC link current cannot be reversed to give back power to the source. So in order to make these changes, you don't need a change in the converter stage, or you don't need an additional converter. The only thing is the firing angle has to be changed here, and the mode of operation of these converters have to be reversed. The inverter will become a rectifier and the rectifier will become an inverter when it starts regeneration. Now let us continue with the closed loop operation. So here the actual speed is sensed here, omega m, and it is compared with the reference speed. So if the reference speed commands a change in the speed of the operation of the motor, then the speed controller will process the error, which is this PI controller, and the slip regulator will set up the slip speed command. This is omega SL star. What is omega SL? This is SF into 2 pi. This is the slip frequency into 2 pi will give you the slip speed omega SL. So the synchronous speed is obtained by adding this slip speed along with the actual speed of the motor. Then the synchronous speed will determine the frequency of the inverter. So as I said, the variable current variable frequency, variable current source, okay, is producing a variable frequency using the inverter itself. So the frequency is determined by the inverter and the current is varied from here. For that, the omega SL is given to a flux control block. This is, we have already discussed this. This curve is obtained when we want to maintain the flux constant, Im constant. So this is the Is versus slip frequency curve, or you can convert it into omega SL, and based on this the ID reference is generated. You know that Is is proportional to ID. So Is can be controlled if you control ID. So ID is compared with reference is compared with the actual ID that is sensed, and the current controller will finally produce the signal to the firing command to the firing circuit to generate the firing angle for the fully controlled rectifier, which is connecting this AC supply to this DC link. So the firing angle of this rectifier is controlled to control VD in response to the current which is demanded by the motor, and VD will vary the value of ID, and this DC link inductor will maintain ID at a constant, this as a constant current source. So any correction in the speed error here is carried out at the maximum permissible inverter current and maximum available torque, and this will give fast transient response of the closed loop control system and protection for current. Current protection will also be ensured. When we compare the CSI and VSI drives, we can see that CSI is more reliable and rugged than VSI. That we have already discussed that a conduction of two devices in the same leg because of commutation failure will not lead to sharp rise of current through them in CSI, and also it has inherent protection against short circuit across the motor terminals. And because of the large LD, the inverter and the value of inverter capacitors are also large, this will increase the cost of the CSI drive, its weight and volume, and also the speed range will be lowered and dynamic response is slower compared to VSI. Also, the CSI drive is not suitable for multi-motor drives, because in this each motor is fed from its own inverter and rectifier. A single converter can be used to feed a number of VSI motor systems connected in parallel. A single VSI can similarly feed a number of motors connected in parallel. And as we discussed before, the regenerative braking of drives in megawatt range using CSI is more efficient than VSI. With this, we are coming to an end of the CSI fed induction motor drives. Thank you.